Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Scoring Plus, where I talk a little bit about how I score certain scenes and how I go about doing this. Now, just a little introduction. In the first video, what I did was I spent a lot of time talking about how this whole temp track business works and how the whole kind of finding the rhythm and finding the pace of a scene works. I'm just going to touch those topics very briefly in this video. In this video, I'm mainly going to show you how I actually go about working on a scene. You know, the instrument selection, how to start, how do I go through, and etc. And I'll actually invite you to look over my shoulders. But before we start with that, you can take a look at the actual showreel scene by Chris Stone with the music and everything, and we're going to take a look and analyze it afterwards. So here's the scene with the music as it is done now for you to watch. Enjoy.
I still see him everywhere. In the street, on the tube, down the pub.
He's gone, Ryan.
Then he's doing a great job of haunting me.
His last decision was to save you. Not exactly the type to hold an eternal grudge.
It was my decision that put him in front of that bullet. Might as well have been the one that pulled the trigger.
You never told him to take that bullet.
May as well have. He got right into that stupid propaganda hero fantasy.
So sacrificing his life makes him what? A fool?
No! I was in charge. I gave the orders. I was responsible for every one of you, and I fucked up. He should be sitting here with you.
You'd rather be dead then?
Didn't say that.
Good. Because if you were, neither of us would be here.
You can't know that.
Jamie died for all of us. Without you to get us out of there, every member of the squad would have died.
I did nothing.
You were our captain. Our leader. You kept us together.
But I didn't keep us all alive, did I?
That wasn't your fault. It was totally out of your control, okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Now look, this isn't what Jamie would want. Where would he want us to be?
In the pub. Doing shots.
Don't forget about hitting on those barmaids.
Come on. First round's on me.
So now you've seen the showreel scene, and I've also loaded this project into my music program, which is Cubase, and this is just the way I get it. You know, this is without any effects, this is without, any stuff to it. It's just simple, without color grading and stuff. What I get is simply the video with two audio tracks. One is with the temp track implemented. By the way, in this case, it was a piece by David Arnold from Independence Day. And so first of all, what I usually do is I try to find, the kind of pace, because the director, in this case Chris Stone, has had the original temp track to cut to, and so it has a certain pace. And when I listen to it with the music that was implemented, so the temp track, you can hear it here.
I still see him everywhere. In the street, on the tube.
So this kind of sets the mood, and I kind of know where to go and what the certain pacing is, and then it's, I have to find it out. In this case, it was approximately 70 beats per minute. And then the second audio track I get is just, audio effects without any temp music to it. So basically, it's like this.
I still see him everywhere. In the street, on the tube, Down the pub?
He's gone, Ryan.
Then he's doing a great job of haunting me.
So you can already tell if you look at it without any music, it's a whole different thing. Now, of course, this was a quite touchy subject. You know, this was not some made-up agent story. It was not some kind of action, thrilling, anything. It is a very subtle acted scene, which was absolutely required. Chris explained that to me, that, you know, this was quite delicate to do because a little bit too much acting, and it spoils the scene, it spoils the performance, because this is all about, you know, the two soldiers that are sitting there have to imagine what they've been through. They have to feel it more than they have to express it. So that was quite difficult. I can imagine quite difficult to do. And those are the very examples I'm kind of intimidated by, because, you know, those are not the instances where you just can go with a full-blown orchestra, or you can do, you know, you can do your electric guitars or drums or anything. You can just, you know, rev up whatever you want. You have to be very subtle yourself with the music. So that means you have a few instruments. In this case, it was a reduced orchestra setting. It's mainly carried by strings, and with some additional woodwinds and some additional brass, but they only kick in later. At the beginning, it's mainly just strings, so cello, viola, and violins. You know what I tend to do when I compose, and that's not something I'm very proud of, but it's something that I got used to, which is playing kind of block chords, which can sound very, how should I say, very undynamic. You know, it's just the block chords going through. So, for example, something like this. This doesn't sound very good because it's just going through. Maybe, you know, you can do a little bit with the mod wheel. You can do some mod wheel action. I wouldn't get through with these block chords because it's way too, this stuff that's going on is way too subtle. I could not get through with that. So I was thinking, like, I was listening to the original track by David Donald, and there's a lot of things, you know, you got mainly a lot of viola going through, and then you know, cellos and violins, they come and go. So there's a lot of movement, you know, not in terms of, it's not stressful, it's not erratic, it's just very, you know, it flows nicely. It's very subtle and very nice to listen to, but it has a lot of changes. So the very first thing I did was I figured out, for parts of the video, I figured out a chord progression, a very simple chord progression, okay? And it was something like this. Doesn't sound like much until now, I know, but usually what I do is I play with two hands with the mod wheel full up, so I get the full sound, and I do, you know, kind of the fine work afterwards. So I basically, what I first do is I load an instance of a whole string, you know, string section. So you got it all covered. So bass, cello, viola, violins. And then I play my thing, you know, I usually do stuff like maybe... I record everything, and then I take it apart in its you know, different components. So, you know, bass, cello, viola, violins, and so on, and I do the fine tuning there. So the viola starts like this. And by the way, if you're wondering about the kind of mellow sound of the strings, because this is very subtle, I chose to go with consordino, which is kind of muted strings, you know, so it's a very fine sound. While I play, I always monitor the picture, so, you know, I stick to the key points where things happen. So for instance, if we activate the audio too.
Him everywhere. In the street. On the tube.
He gets more and more into story,
He's gone, Rob.
and more strings kick
He's
in.
doing a great job of haunting you.
His last decision was to save you. Not exactly the type to hold an eternal grudge.
It's my decision that put him in front of that bullet. Might as well have been the one that pulled the trigger.
You never told him to take that bullet.
You know, when he says pull the trigger, it kind of amplifies it with the music. Now, in general, the instrument selection is a thing that I forgot to mention, is also something that I, of course, you know, worry about. Is there's always kind of, well, there's multiple ways to go, but usually there's two ways to go. It is to go with a standard instrumentation, which is mostly defined for every genre. Like this military stuff is usually strings, brass, a lot of snare drums, field drums, you know, all the military instruments, you know, solo trumpets, cornets, stuff like that. And I chose to go because, you know, this is a short, contained showreel scene. So this is not a playground to experiment. This is really, it should convey something really fast and really, you know, it should be spot on right from the start. So I started with the strings, and I built the whole kind of string arrangement going from chapter to chapter. You know, I also enter hit points where I know I want a chord change there, I want something to happen there, the music to stop there, the music go faster. Wherever something happens where I have to hit key points, I do some markers, and I usually record up to there. All right? So now, having recorded the strings, I can start to add more things. Obviously, at the beginning, when, you know, it should build up. It should always build up. So at the beginning, it's mainly going to switch this. You can see how this whole thing unfolds. So at the beginning, there's mainly strings, and then bassoon comes in, some very, very fine horns, but very fine, so you can hardly tell that they're there. You know, they come one after another, they kick in. And then as we proceed, more instruments come in. And so it keeps going on. And then there's that change point where it goes like we had it before. And there it goes to happy. Sounds so typically, you know, it sounds so military with you know, with the horn, with the trumpet and everything. And then I watch it with the sounds, you know, I go back and forth because you don't want to get in the way of sounds, especially you don't want to get in the way of dialogue, which is always very, you know, you have to be very mindful of that. I'm very careful as well. Now, orchestral music is, on one hand side, it is very easy to mix and master. On the other hand side, it's very hard. Because usually you shouldn't do too many things to orchestral instruments when it comes to mix and mastering, because, you know, those are not amplified instruments or anything. They're just basically natural instruments. And the more you temper with the mix and the mastering, they're very prone to sounding, you know, fake and just things sounding off. So that's very, very difficult to do. But still, you wanna have proper, you know, proper bass, proper without, you don't want to have mud in the middle. You want to have nice crisps, high ends, and stuff like that. But then again, you don't want to do too much, so that can be quite difficult. Usually, what I do in the end, just a little bit to give it more of a roomy feeling, I add a little bit of whole, or in this case, reverb to the whole thing, so to really simulate an orchestra whole. An EQ, very, very subtle, a very subtle limiter, that doesn't pump too much. And sometimes, if it's supposed to be a little older recording or something like this, or should have a little bit of warmth to it, some extra warmth, I also use a Ampex tape recorder. Now, I will render this out, send it to Chris. He will listen to it, give his feedback. Sometimes there are some changement requests. Now, this was as good as it was. And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to tell you in this episode. I plan to do more of those episodes. In case you got questions, just feel free to write them in the comment section below. And now you can have a listen at the isolated score.